$25 an hour is nice until you realize that after tax, it's $3,250 and rent is $2,000. That's over 62% of your income.
$25 an hour sounds very good until somebody actually breaks down what happened to that money. And that's exactly what caught my attention. More Americans are posting what they make, what actually reaches their bank account, and what they have left after basic expenses. Some of these numbers might surprise you.
Paid. Have you ever wondered that? Well, I want to break down my check and show you exactly how much I get paid, how much is taken out of my check. I'll give you the real numbers, no BS. So the total amount, gross pay, no deductions or no taxes taken out, the grand total was $3,363. State where I work, which is Utah, we work 48 hours on, 96 hours off. Work week is 56 hours. So this check is 112 hours on it. Sometimes I have overtime, sometimes I don't. This happens to be a no overtime check. My base rate is $29.25 an hour. I had comments say on the last video, well, $29 isn't equal $87,000 a year. Well, for firefighter lingo, it does. Check was 112 hours at $29.25 an hour. And then we have the FLSA, which is about 6 hours at halftime. And that total came to about $87, making that grand total of the $3,300. Now let's talk about taxes and how much was taken out in taxes. This is different state to state. And I've heard California firefighters get taxed a crap ton. The total amount taken out of my paycheck was $384 broken down from Medicare, state, and federal.
$4,000 a month is what I bring home as a teacher. I get paid once a month. I have a master's degree and I've taught for 17 years. My mortgage has gone up, my insurance has gone up, taxes have gone up, and my teacher paycheck stayed the same.
We hear somebody's making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, and we immediately form an opinion about how well they are doing. Gross income and spendable income aren't the same thing. Taxes, insurance, retirement deduction, housing, and everything else start changing that number very quickly.
What is a livable wage in 2026? Let's run the numbers and figure this out. Let's say you want to live by yourself and you get an apartment for $1,500 plus utilities, $400 for groceries, $300 for a used car, $150 for insurance, $150 for employee-sponsored healthcare, $100 for gas, $100 for personal care, $50 for cell phone, $50 for internet is $2,800, which I think is survival. That is the bare minimum that Americans need in 2026. So if you want to go further than that, I would say $200 for savings a month, $200 investing, $200 for fun, and $100 for subscriptions would put you at $3,500. Now in this example, there's no credit cards, no student loans. This person does not have children. They're not saving for anything luxurious. They got their savings, but that's more for emergencies, not for a house or anything like that. If you make $15 an hour, your take-home pay is going to be $22.10. So that's going to put you below surviving. So you're probably going to need a roommate making $15 an hour. If you make $20 an hour, your take-home is going to bump up to $28.80, which is going to put you right at surviving with $80 to spare, but it's surviving paycheck to paycheck, and you're kind of stressed out because you don't have much of savings or investing or anything like that. $25 an hour is going to put you at $35.60. I would say this is livable. You get everything on the list and you've got an extra $60, but it's livable paycheck to paycheck. And then $30 an hour or $62,400 is the first wage that I think puts you in the thriving category. Your take home is $42.40 and you have an extra $750 a month after everything on this list.
I made $3,100 in the month of July working at 2 different jobs. I work at Ulta and I work at Target. If you know, you know. So this is how much I made. I made $3,109.65. Let's do a full price breakdown of how much I made at each job and how many hours I worked. I make $18 at both, which is crazy because I worked at Target for 8 years and I've worked at Ulta for a couple months. So we love that. Anywho, but this is my paycheck for July. We got paid 3 times at Target because of how the paycheck lays, which is really, really nice. And then I got paid 5 times at Ulta. So Target for 3 paychecks, I made $2,400. And for my Ulta paychecks for 5 paychecks, I made $687.60. And this is after taxes, and honestly this is pretty good because I was making about $3,000 a month just working at Target, about 35 hours a week, so it's nice to have a little break from Target and work at Ulta for funsies. I worked about 167 hours to equate the $3,000. At Ulta, I only work about 40 hours for the whole month. I only work 8 hours a week, usually, unless I pick up a shift. And so the rest of those hours were Target. So honestly, for July, we're sitting pretty good, even though my Target paychecks always say I'm negative. So see you guys next month. Hopefully we're doing better, if not the same. We'll compare August to July next month, so stay tuned.
And there's another problem asking what a good salary is. Where a paycheck that provides somehow an easy life in one part of the country might be completely different somewhere else where housing or childcare cost is significantly high.
I just accepted every single DoorDash order for 12 hours straight. Started around 8 a.m. and ended around 9:15 p.m. on a Monday in the Virginia Beach area. I was dashing for about 12 hours and 10 minutes. I was active for 9 hours and 56 minutes. I put 221 miles on my 2009 Subaru Forester. My earnings before taxes, wear and tear, gas, insurance, etc. was $215. My biggest tip was $14.25 from a Food Lion grocery order, and my smallest tip was $3 from a Starbucks order.
Break down my budget and salary as a high school history teacher. One of the things that I think isn't talked about enough is salary and how to budget properly as a teacher. So I kind of wanted to make a video on this. I am a third year high school teacher here in the state of Arizona. So to start, I bring in about $3,000 after taxes. Some months it's a little bit lower. Some months it's a little bit higher due to if it's basketball season, if I'm getting my stipend and my addendum for it. So maybe some months I'll be making $3,200, $3,300, $3,400 sometimes, or maybe some months I'm making $2,800. So I kind of just went with breaking it down with $3,000, which is typically what I make in a month.
That's why I like to see actual numbers. People could argue all day whether someone should be making more or less, but once somebody shows the hours, the gross income, and what actually came home, then we have something concrete to discuss. And I'm curious to know whether you are seeing the same thing on your paycheck.
I make only $4,000 a month as a new grad nurse in Florida. Let's talk about it. We live in a state where a great deal of our population is the elderly, so we need lots of nurses in this state. There are so many hospitals in such a small and dense areas. There are so many nurses in Florida, and yet we are living paycheck to paycheck. In order to make more money, they make you do things like nights or weekends, and it doesn't make sense. I think we deserve more pay. No, not think. I know we deserve more pay. There's no reason we should be struggling and barely getting by on a nurse's salary. We have people's lives in our hands.
You gotta come to the realization that your job is keeping you broke. I make $20 an hour, bro. I just seen somebody write in the comment section of somebody's video, and this is a fact. $20 an hour at a 40-hour work week is only $800 a week. It's only $8. And listen, for the people that work at the place that I work at, I don't even know how much longer I'm gonna be there. But for the people that work at the place that I work at, it's $800. And then the only way you're gonna reach over 900 or 1,000 is if you do the overtime. Now they starting to take away the overtime. So guess what? We need multiple streams of income. These jobs are keeping people broke.
You know, I'm not here to compare my situation to anybody else's situation, because at the end of the day, we are all struggling, especially in this economy. And although my situation is not as worse as anybody else's, it still is a struggle. So again, it's not about the comparison, because in this economy, the overwhelming majority of us working class people are struggling. And I am one of the millions of healthcare workers who's living paycheck to paycheck. I want to give clarity on a couple of things. You can make a lot of money in healthcare, but it comes at a cost. I wanted to hop in and be a part of the conversation that Casanova started about truthful disclosure about your finances in this economy. Some of y'all gonna be like, you make good money. I do. But when I look at my check as a healthcare worker, I'm lucky if I get half my check after federal taxes have been taken out, after state taxes have been taken out, after my retirement has been taken out, after all of the shit that they charge me a la carte on my insurance, my vision, my supplemental disability. I barely get a little bit more than half my check. And it's a lot of people in healthcare that make well above minimum wage like I do that are still living paycheck to paycheck. And I'll be very honest, I owe the IRS about $20,000 in back taxes, almost $20,000 in back taxes that I give them a payment for every month. I have credit card debt. I have a car note, and I still have a small balance on my student loans, but it's still debt. I live in DC. And living in DC is not cheap, and I make well above minimum wage. And even though I'm not struggling to pay my rent, and the only reason why I'm not struggling to pay my rent is because I took my time to find something that I knew I could pay without struggling. But I don't live in a luxury apartment. I don't live in no extremely safe, nice, clean neighborhood. The neighborhood that I just moved to is pretty decent. My apartment is more than decent, and my rent is only $12.50. In DC, but Southeast DC. That comes at a cost. And the only reason why I'm saying all this is because with all the stuff that we are being taxed on, the cost of living, it's crazy. And I see why people crash out. Because you got to go to work and you have to put up with all the frustrations of dealing with what you have to deal with at your job. And then when you get your check, the overwhelming majority, if not all of your check, goes to bills, meaning cost of living. And I have definitely made my mistakes when it comes to my financial literacy has not been the best, like most Americans. So to all you that want to get on here and try to be like, oh, you should know better, the overwhelming majority of Americans don't have good financial literacy. That's why so many of us are in debt. But that still doesn't mean that the cost of living does not need to be addressed. Because I work hard for what I have. Like right now, I got a stack of tickets that I haven't paid because I don't have the money for it right now. Every time I turn around, I get a ticket in the mail. Even is that the cost of living isn't just your rent. It's gas. It's the cost of living. It's the cost that you have to pay if you take public transportation. Insurance is sky high in DC because you don't have a lot of parking spaces in DC. So you have to park on the street and they tax stuff out of you for, regardless of if you have a good record or a driving record. And I don't have a bad driving record. I don't. But like I said, I got a stack of tickets that they keep sending me, and the tickets that they sending me ain't $20 or $30. 70, 100, 150. And then if you don't pay them in 30 days, they double it. In this economy. And at the end of the day, they still have systems in place to keep you down even when you make good money. So like I say, even though my struggle is not as bad as some people, it still is a struggle. And at the end of the day, our system is broken and it needs to be fixed. That's it. That's all. Bye.
These people aren't all doing the same job. They are not all the same age. They're not necessarily living in the same place, but they are having versions of the same conversation. What does my work actually buys me?
This is how much money I made in the month of July as someone working 4.5 jobs, I guess, if you count social media. So my full-time job, what I get paid in my salary, I get paid $1,448.59 twice a month for a total of $2,896.98. I'll try to keep a running total here. I'm also a hostess, and at my restaurant, I got paid twice a month. One paycheck was $133.63, and the other was $218.06, which is a total of $351.69. I do marketing for a local company separately. It's like a contract. And I got 3 paychecks from them this month. One was $111.68. The other was $411.12. And then the last one was $234.19. That one just kind of varies about how many hours I'm able to put in. And the total for that was $756.99. My last job is nannying / dog sitting, which varies, but I got paid 4 times for that. $330 for dog sitting, $102, $150, and then $90 were my weekly pay for the weeks I nannied, which is a total of $672.
So I have 2 adult children. One is 18 going on 19 and the other one is 21. My 18-year-old is working currently as an HVAC apprentice and working on getting certified, but he's making $16 an hour, which I live in a small to mid-sized Missouri town, so that's pretty typical around here. Wages are, low compared to a lot of places, but so is the cost of living. And I'm now sitting here thinking about my own situation, where my own currently hourly wage is, and considering if I was their age, if I was just starting out, so thinking about buying the same house that I live in right now at its current value, at current interest rates, with the same % down payment that I paid for this house back in 2017, and I realized that my payment would be double what it currently is, and I, as a 40-year-old woman who has been working for 24 years of my life, could not afford this place on my own. At 40 years old, I would need a roommate in order to live in this very modest, 1,300 square foot, 1968 ranch style home. It's not a fancy house by any stretch. It's what most people would consider to be essentially a starter home by today's standards. And I could not afford it on my own on my current wages. So my question is, how the hell are we expecting these young kids to do it? For someone to start out, even in my area, in rural Missouri, they would have to make $30 an hour in order to be earning a living wage, in order to live on their own and support themselves without the help of a spouse or a roommate, just for a single person to live and make it on their own, to be able to afford a vehicle payment, vehicle insurance, a mortgage or rent payment, and all of the utilities and groceries and cell phone bills and stuff that go along with just living your life. That's no fun stuff. It's just to live. They would need to make $30 an hour.
I'm going to share some truth. I work 41 hours a week at my first job, okay? That's my first job. 41 hours a week. When I'm not working there, I DoorDash. I can't pay my bills. What in the is this world coming, turned into? What are we dealing with? I took a second job waiting tables, but I just can't do 5:45 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. Sorry, I can't. I can't physically do that. That's too much.
In the Marine Corps, I'm in military.
Cool. And how much do you make?
So I make, I think it's 50,000 a year, and then plus other benefits like housing and stuff. So.
And how long have you been in the Marine Corps?
I recently just joined, so about a year.
So after watching all of this is what stands out to me. We spend a lot of time asking somebody how much do they make. Maybe we should spend more time asking how much do they keep, because your hourly wage isn't your paycheck. Your paycheck isn't your disposable income, and your disposable income isn't necessarily your financial security. 2 people can make exactly the same amount of money, and yet they live completely different financial life. Has your paycheck gone up over the last few years? And if it has, do you actually feel better off? You don't have to tell us how much you earn. Just tell me whether your money goes further than it did a few years ago. This is Straight Talk Daily. I'll see you guys on the next one.